Hi guys, how are you doing? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Neil. If you've not been here before, please do not forget to subscribe before you leave. Welcome to episode 3 of Gear Chat. Gear Chat is where I discuss guitar related content with you guys. You know, what's in the news, new gear that's coming out, new gear that I'm getting on the channel, and also I get to answer some of your questions that I get asked all the time. Okay guys, so in today's Gear Chat we're going to discuss 3 things. We're going to discuss how to use the emulated outputs on Blackstar tube amps. We're also going to discuss why I've moved all these amps around behind me. We're going to kind of do it like a rig rundown, you know. I'm going to go through my rig behind me, all my gear, and tell you why I like it, what I like about each amp, and mainly why I've moved it, because I realised that all my amps were in totally impractical positions, totally impractical positions behind me, and I've moved them around and they are much better now. Also, at the end of the video we are going to discuss Band Vs YouTube, because I get asked this question a lot, why I'm not in a band, and I need to explain to you guys why at the moment I'm not in a band. So first of all, let's talk about the Blackstar Amped direct output. Now the HT100 that you can hopefully see behind me there has an emulated output on the back like all the HTs, and it's brilliant. I'm not going to lie, it's absolutely fantastic and I love it. In fact, I asked if I could keep this amp behind me because I love that emulated out. So you're going to see quite a bit more of this amp in my videos. Personally, that emulated output that is on that amp, I cannot get a mic and a speaker to sound as good as that emulated output no matter what I do. So it makes sense, if I'm going to record, I may as well use the emulated output. It's also easier for me at this end to do that. Some of you guys are scared of using the emulated output on your Blackstar amps because you're confused whether the amp needs a load or not, meaning whether it needs a cab attached to it or not. Now, it's quite a simple thing, but I totally understand why you guys are scared. I once did a gig many years ago with a JSM 800, and I was tuning my guitars thinking that I'm warming up my tubes with the amp on standby, and the JSM 800 was not plugged into the speaker because I just forgot, and it basically fried itself, okay? It just popped and it went off, and that was it, and it stunk, okay? And I basically melted the whole amp inside because the load and the power that the tube amp was generating was building up and it had nowhere to go, okay? That is why you need a speaker load attached to your tube amp. So most of you guys know that, and I totally get why you are nervous about using an emulated output. Now, on all the emulated outputs that I've ever used on any amp, they all work the same. You need to leave the amp on standby to use them. Now, I'm just going to talk about Blackstar amps because I'm sure there will be amps out there that work differently. So please only listen to my advice in this video if you have a Blackstar St. James or HT. I've worked with both, so I know how they work, and that keeps me safe here. I don't want you guys blaming me if your amp's died, if it works a different way. The Blackstars work in a way where you leave the amp on standby and you can silent record out to an interface or straight into a camera if you like. Now, when you see me doing videos using the emulated output on here, I'm going straight into a camera, or well, it's an iPhone actually that I usually use these days. And I'm going straight into the iPhone from the emulated output, but I need to hear what I'm playing, obviously. And the way I do that is I leave a cab rigged up. I put it down to the head down to 10 watts, you know, so it's not blowing the house down. And that's how I do it here. Now, if I'm recording into an interface, I don't need a cab rigged up to the head at all. So I just don't have one rigged up. Now, you guys are probably thinking, what the hell is happening to all that power that's generating inside the tubes? And inside the circuit boards and the transformers. And basically, Blackstar have this situation where if the amp is on standby and there is no speaker connected to the outputs on your head, on your amp, then it's safe to use it that way, okay? Now, what I don't want you guys to do is leave your cable plugged into the amp head, but the other end of your cable not into the speaker. That is not going to work, okay? What's going to happen there is your head is not going to know whether you are using a cab or not, and you need it to, okay? So the way to do this is you plug your XLR or your quarter jack into whichever emulated output you are using on your Blackstar amp. That goes then into the interface, and you unplug your speaker cable, okay, from the back of the amp. Do not worry about this. As long as you leave the amp on standby when you are recording using the emulated outputs, it's safe, it's going to be fine. When it's not fine is when you have either a speaker cable plugged in to the speaker outputs on the amp, or your amp is not on standby, or both, okay? So you need the amp on standby, you need to unplug the speaker cables from the Blackstar head, whether it's a HT or whether it's a St. James, and you need to make sure, obviously, to get your sound, that you have the emulated outputs rigged up to your interface or your phone or whatever it is that you are recording to, and this will be perfectly fine. You can even do this with the master volume on 0, okay? It's great, it's a great way of doing it, it's a great way of recording, and the emulated outputs, I know on the St. James obviously it's a cab rig that's kind of built into the St. James, but it's the same technology, if you like, that Blackstar are using in both amps, and it works the same way, okay? You will be safe. I know the Marshall DSL-1 works the same way as well, because I had one of those not so long ago. Leave the amp on standby, unplug the speaker cable from the amp, do not leave it plugged in, and you will be safe to use it without a load, okay? And you won't fry your amp. I hope this helps you guys out. This question I get asked just recently, probably the last month or so, like twice a week at least. So yeah, hope that helps and reduces your fear of burning your house down or frying your brand new amp. Right guys, moving on, you will see behind me that I've moved all my amps around, and there's reasons that I've moved it around, and I thought, well, I may as well tell you why I've moved it around for those of you that are interested. And also, I thought I may as well go through all these amps and cabs and stuff behind me and tell you why I like them and what I like about them, because I do genuinely like them all. They're not here just for show. Okay, so first of all, we're going to start over here with the Marshall Jvm. The Marshall Jvm 410 has not been used by me for quite a while. It was getting used a lot because that was my amp of choice to use in the home, which sounds a bit extreme because obviously, you know, it's too loud for home use, some of you would probably say, but that amp sounds good on any volume, you know, and I honestly think that modern high gain amps don't need to be cranked up. They sound great on low volume, and a 100 watt head sounds better than a 10 watt head or a 1 watt head or a 5 watt head on any volume. So if you can afford a 100 watt head, you may as well get one, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. So the Marshall Jvm 410 was getting used a lot, and then I needed to move it because the Blackstar came, and I moved it down out of the way just because things were a bit precarious. You know, the Marshall is a funny shape compared to the other heads. As you can see, it's thin and it's tall, and the feet are quite wide apart. So I just put it on the floor down there, and it was bugging me a bit just being down there, to be honest, you know, on the floor. So I wanted to get that back in. So that's gone up there on top of the EVH 5153 EL34S, okay? Now, the Marshall Jvm 410, I just want to say before I move on to the EVH, is brilliant through the Captor X. I had this discussion with somebody who's just bought, I think, a Jvm 410 and rigged it up to their 2-notes Captor X, and they had the same thoughts as me. It sounds so good through there, you know, or even with an IR. It's really good for recording that way if you've got a low box and an IR. And in my opinion, like this guy, Matt, I think he's called, said, I wish I could get it to sound as good as it does through the Captor X in the room, and so do I. It does sound brilliant in the room. It does sound great. It does sound better with a tube screen or something in front. But with an IR, recording it to the 2-notes Captor X, for some reason, that head is, out of all the heads you can see behind me, it is one of the best heads recording into the Captor X, which is why I've held on to it, actually. That's the main reason, because I don't want to let it go, just in case if I want that tone. Excuse me. Below this, we have the EVH EL34S 5153. This is the most expensive head, I think you can see behind me. And it's an absolute monster. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I've had this head in a room with tons of other amps, including a dual rectifier, which sounds massive. And this amp is just huge sounding, okay? I don't know if it's the transformers, I don't know what it is, but it just sounds absolutely ridiculously huge in the room. Like, the low end is huge. It can cut through on the blue channel, or if you put it on the red channel, the low end gets bigger and it can like shake the room and the bass just gets lost in the mix. It just is a monster of a head. Now, unfortunately, it's absolutely massive, as you can see, and quite hard to move around, and also it weighs a ton. Now, because this is the most expensive amp in the room and it was down here before and I couldn't really get behind everything when it's down there to plug it in, it didn't get much use, and it wasn't getting much use. I was getting a bit fed up, to be honest, with it and with not using it. And I thought, you know, I want to start using it, so I'm going to have to move it. That will encourage me to use it. So that's what I've done. I've moved it out here where I can get to it a bit better. It's on top of an Engl cab. This is an Engl V30 412 cab. And I'm going to do a demo probably within the next couple of weeks of the EVH 5153 EL34S head into the Engl V30 cab, because I've not done one yet and I'm intrigued to know what it sounds like. I usually use the EVH through the Hesu 212. In fact, I usually use the Hesu 212 on most of my videos. But yeah, that's why those two heads are there. And the Engl cab below, by the way, I do love it. But I might have to say goodbye to it soon if I can find a buyer that is willing to buy it, because it's just too big, and the more heads that I get, like it's taking up more room. I could do with a 212, maybe even an Engl 212 actually, because I do like the Engl 212s. I could do with something lower down, you know, and smaller. And the 412 is a bit much in this room. The Engl is a really harsh, in your face, mid-heavy kind of cab, okay? So it cuts through nice, but in this house, it's lethal in this small room, to be honest with you. Up here behind me, we have the EVH Lunchbox, the original Mark 1. It's a brilliant amp, absolutely love it. Tons of mid-range growl, tons of attack, and can hold its own in a live situation or a rehearsal situation with 100-watt heads, in my opinion, just because it has so much attack and poke. It really pokes its nose through the mix. I want to start using that a bit more on the channel. I'm probably going to do a new video on that, just because I've not done one for quite a while. My videos with that head are quite old now. So I've had it a long time. I got it as soon as they were over here, as soon as they landed in the UK. I was an EVH artist, still am, hopefully. So they sent me one out straight away. I probably got one of the first ones to arrive in the country. Along with this, actually, the EVH EL34S, I got the first one in the UK. So I was absolutely buzzing that day when that arrived. Here I have the Peavey JSX, which I equally love. It's a very unique sounding head. It's got the EL34s in, gives it tons of mid-range growl and bite and presence, and it just sounds way different from all the other heads in here. So if I want a really crunchy, mid-heavy tone, then I usually wire up the JSX. It really comes to life with a boost in front, but you don't actually need one because the Ultra channel has that much. That head, I bought it off a friend who's not right well right now, actually. So yeah, if you're watching this, mate, I hope you're doing okay. I will probably keep that head for years, many years. I really don't want to lose that head because it's just so unique compared to the other heads that I have. Below we have the Peavey 6505 Plus. That head's great. It's a bit noisy, that one, but I think it just needs retubing, but I've not got the money to throw at that right now. But it sounds great. We all know what it does. You know, I gigged with the Peavey 6505 Plus and I got tons of compliments on my tone. It sounded heavy as hell. It just sounded great. I just enjoyed using that head live, probably more than any other head, okay? I also had an Engl Fireball, and between those two heads I got more compliments on my tone with those two heads than any other rig that I've ever had. Below that is just a regular 6505. Both the Peavey 6505s are made in the USA. They're old ones. The bottom one sounds great. Just had it fixed recently and it's loud. I don't know what's happened to it when it went to get fixed, but now it is that loud. It gets loud way quicker than all my other heads in this room. Like, you have to like nudge the master so slightly because it goes from, you know, when you're in that fizzy mode before you kind of get to like between 0 and 1, and suddenly like you get this thing where it opens up and you're out of the preamp mode, the power amp kicks in. Well, on this amp, when you do that, it just gets loud. So that little notch, it's not so hard to use within the house. It just goes woof, suddenly stupidly loud, but I don't know why. Below that is a Hesu 212 V30 cab, my favorite cab, and I absolutely love it. I've had it years, I gig with it for years, I rehearse with it for years. It's been in just about every video to keep the content equal, you know, so you guys know what you're listening to. If I keep swapping cabs for you guys in demos, you're going to get confused. You're not going to know what you're listening to, because speakers obviously and cabs make such a big difference to tones, as we all know, that I can't just swap in every video. You won't know which head you like or prefer if I'm doing a shootout, basically. So that's why I use a Hesu 212 all the time. Also, it mics well and it sounds well in the room. Some cabs don't mic well and don't sound good in the room. Sometimes you have a cab that it might mic up really well, but in the room it might sound a bit garbage. Or other cabs might be the other way around. The Hesu, it's kind of in the middle, it does everything really well. So I absolutely love that cab, and thanks to Tobias for sending me that. Over here we have the Blackstar HT100 Mark II. That is now my head, and I'm happy as hell to own it. Again, a really unique tone, ultra tight on OD2, and with the voice switch engaged to the point where you don't need a pedal because it's that tight. And if you put a pedal in front, there's too much gain. There's too much gain, sorry, on that channel, and there's also, it gets too tight, you know, and it sounds bad. Okay, I have done it in a video. I put a boost in front of OD2 with the voice switch engaged, and it was too much. Okay, so if you're going to boost that head, I would recommend you boosting it with it on OD1 more than anything. So yeah, great head, absolutely love it. And obviously the reason I love it a lot is because, one, it's got the power down switch, so I plug into that amp, to be honest, in this room more than any of the other, out of my tube heads, I plug into that more than any of the other amps, okay? But the emulated out is the real reason why I absolutely love that head, as we discussed at the beginning of the video when I was talking to you guys about not blowing up your amps. Below it we have the EVH 50 watt Stealth, and it's just a brilliant amp. It's a top seller. It's a top seller for a reason. It's just brilliant. The EVH minis are amazing because they are so portable. Like, they're small, you can carry them in one hand, they're pretty light, and they've got enough clout to be in the mix, you know, enough power there. They sound great tone wise. Obviously the big versions are way bigger, you know, like they sound like whatever you love about the 50 watters, it gets enhanced when you move to the 100. It's just more, you know. But the 50 watt minis do have a bit more mid poke, like you'd expect a 50 watt amp to have. A bit more mid focused, a bit more tighter, a bit quicker on the attack. Not quite as flubby on the low end. You can dial that out of the 100, but you're going to use it out of that low end if you've got it. Let's face it. So yeah, brilliant amp. I don't think I'll ever get rid of that amp. I just love it. And if I had a gig tomorrow, you know, I'd probably take that amp or something else over there that I'm going to talk about in a minute. So below that we have a Zilla 212 Fat Boy Vertical cab. I bought that cab especially because I was lacking room here, or in my other room which I was in then, and I wanted a vertical cab, and I wanted the EVH to fit on nice. It's a great cab and it's very unique sounding actually. The term Fat Boy made me think that it had tons of low end, and it's not actually got tons of low end. I mean, it has quite a lot of punch there, but it's very mid-focus. It's got V30s in, so that makes sense, as all my cabs have. But yeah, it's very focused cab. One day I will do like a cab shootout where we try and get the mic in a similar place on every cab, and we can compare them. They're totally different. It really does. Say they've got V30s in all of them, it really does make a big difference what cab the speakers are in. So over here we have my Positive Grid Spark Mini. It's great. I just use that when I want a quick jam at low volume, maybe on a night, or I just taken it to a caravan. I went on a caravan holiday the other week and I took that with me just because in case I got bored, and I played it about 4 or 5 times. It sounds great. You know, I've got my presets in there. It's probably due an update actually, that thing, but yeah. The next thing I want to talk about over here, the Amped 2. Okay, now this is probably what I use more than anything these days, and at the moment it's over there, by the way, on the desk, because it needs to be near my Mac, because I'm actually recording a track with the Amped 2 at the moment, but usually it's down here on the floor. It sounds great at all volume levels. It's got effects in, it's got everything in. You can put a boost in front to make it sound better, I guess, but it sounds all right on its own, to be fair. I really love the thing. You know, it's just my go-to thing, and to be honest, if I can't really take an amp when I ever had a gig, that is what I would take 100%. And this is coming from a guy that's used to, you know, tube amps. So let's go through why all this stuff got moved. So basically the Blackstar had to go over there, because if ever I'm going to record with that, I need it near my Mac, and I will be using the emulated output on that if I ever fire it up, more than likely. So it made sense to move it over there so the leads can reach my interface, which is way over there, out of the way. The EVH 50 watt Stealth is near my Captor X, which is just out of shot, probably over there now, and that is another amp that I like to use because it sounds really good with the Captor X, and it's probably my go-to amp. I've not even moved the controls on that for such a long time. On the Blue, I put a boost in front, and that's really great with the Captor X. So that needs to stay near the Captor X, and the Blackstar needs to be near the Mac and my interface, so that's why they're both over there. The Peaveys I kind of put in the middle because I use them least for some reason. I don't know why. Probably because they're so damn loud. But yeah, I put those in the middle. I've got an extra long speaker cable into the Hesu cab, which can reach any head in this room, and the EVH moved over there simply because I wanted to use it more, and when it was buried down here I couldn't even get around the back. Like these Peaveys, I can't get around the back. I'd have to move all this out of the way to get around the back, and yeah, I'm lazy, and when you're making YouTube videos it's pretty time consuming. A lot of guys say, why aren't you in a band? I want to hear your music, you know, you should be in a band, it's a waste and all this business, which is a real big compliment actually, that I don't take lightly, that guys think that I'm wasted, you know, here on YouTube. But there is a reason for it. Now, my band the last band that I was in, my last active band was called Broken. We played Download twice, 2 consecutive years. We played a Bloodstock festival, they're the biggest ones, but we played other smaller festivals, and we've been on TV a couple of times, and things like that, you know. So we'd done okay, we'd done well for ourselves, a ton of endorsements. That's how I know brands, you know, and people at brands. That's how it all started. It's through the success of the band. But I worked really hard at that band, stupidly hard, you know, and to the point where I think the Facebook had 170 odd K followers, or 160 odd K followers last time I looked, and then the page got deleted. Okay, so somebody deleted the page, you know. Some other band members are in another band, so that's you know, good luck to them, I guess, you know. But yeah, the page disappeared. If that page was still there, I probably would one day get the inspiration to reform it, you know, mainly get a new singer, because that was the guy. I mean, the singer and the drummer left, they're in another band now, so I'd probably replace the singer and the drummer if that still existed. But once that went missing, which wasn't long ago, I just thought, you know, it's starting from scratch again when you've been, you know, on Facebook alone, just with 160 odd K followers. It's a nightmare, you know. I couldn't imagine starting from ground zero again. But that doesn't mean I'm writing it off. YouTube takes up so much of my time that basically, for you guys that don't know, I'm a part-time care worker, okay? I work 3 or 4 days a week, usually 4. And my other days off are all sat here in front of this camera with a guitar or doing whatever, editing at the Mac for YouTube, okay? I go to the gym. It's quite a busy life, and to be honest, the YouTube thing doesn't work the way it used to be. When I first started out, the whole reason the channel started was because I had endorsements with EVH and Jackson Guitars, and people were asking me suddenly on Facebook, mainly through Messenger, loads of questions about gear, especially the EVH stuff and the Jackson stuff. So I thought, what's the best way of answering these questions where I can just give them a link rather than repeat myself answering the same question? So that's why I started making videos. That's what's behind it all. That's how it started. But back then you could do one video. I'd have one day off. I'd work 50 hours a week. I'd have one day off dedicated to making a video. I'd make a video, put it out, that's it. The quality wasn't great. The lighting was terrible. I didn't know what I was doing. But it was nice. I enjoyed it, and that's how it all started. Then things progressed, and the way YouTube works changed. You know, you can't just do one video a week anymore. You just won't get seen. They want a video every other day, okay? So basically, it's become, you know, it's hard work now, you know. So 3 days a week, I'm sat making a video for probably 4 to 6 hours, including editing, including the playing, including the talking or whatever. And then I have to upload it, and my internet here is really slow, so on the night time I'll set it uploading, you know, while I'm watching TV, and when it's done, it's done. Sometimes 1 hour, sometimes 2 hours. Some guys are uploading in 10 minutes with their super fast internet, but mine is terrible. It's very time consuming, and people I don't think realise how time consuming it is to have a YouTube channel, you know, and the level that the amount of work that I'm putting in, to be honest, to the channel. I should really be a professional YouTuber. It's getting that bad, okay? But that is the way YouTube wants it. They want daily uploads, if they can get them, but, you know, once every other day. They also want longer videos, you know. This video is long, really long, because it's a lot of chatting, but yeah, they want longer videos, you know. They want you to entertain people, and they want it to be like a TV series. They want it to be... They want to keep people on YouTube. They don't want it to be a 3-minute demo of a guitar like it used to be back in the day. So yeah, very time consuming is YouTube. I've not wrote off being in a band, but I couldn't be in a band and do this YouTube as much as I do. I couldn't do both, you know, I'd crack up. The band that I was in, I was doing absolutely everything just about. I was 50 hours a week on the internet every night, promoting the band, rehearsing once a week for 3 hours, and then gigging, you know, at the weekend, then going into work the next day. Obviously, I'm a care worker. People's lives are in my hands. But yeah, I would consider being in a band again, but this would have to, the YouTube thing would have to take a back seat. I always give 100% to things that I do. I'm not really a 50% guy. So being a band, like, I expect everyone to give the same, and they weren't doing for many years. And it wasn't just that, it was a money thing. Some people were prepared to put any spare money they had into the band, other people weren't. And getting that fine balance and getting a group of people together that all invest the same amount of money and are willing to in the band, and all put in the same amount of work online and everything, it's virtually impossible, you know. And it does cause arguments and stress, because I tend to do it all because I want things doing. But yeah, also vocalists, like, I know tons of drummers that I could form a band with, or at least ask. I've got 3 or 4 really talented drummers that I know that I could probably ask. A couple of bass players and a couple of guitarists who I'd trust as well. But vocal-wise, you know, I don't know a vocalist that's good enough, and not necessarily good enough, but good enough and has the right attitude and the time as well. And I think as far as vocalists go, like, you need a really good one. You know, there's no two ways about it. If you want to be in a band doing good gigs, you need good songs, which means you need a good vocalist. I can write the music, I leave the vocals to the vocalist, but not all. And if you get an amazing singer, doesn't mean they can write a good vocal line or a good song. So yeah, it's a tough one. I would consider it again. I do miss playing live so much, I really do. I don't miss travelling miles to see, to play to 10 people when you were promised like 100, you know. So if you're Metallica or if you're Slayer, you know, you don't have to worry about nobody being there at the gig. But if you're just a regular band, you know, and you travel to Manchester, say, you know, two-hour drive, wherever, and you get there and there's 10 people, you know, you could do 3 gigs in a row where you're only playing to like 10, 20 people before you play that gig that's packed and got a really good atmosphere. And it's hard work with not much reward. And on here on YouTube, even though I'm not actually putting songs out there, I mean, you can listen to my music. If you put Nine Cornelian into Spotify or iTunes, you will find the stuff that you hear in the demos, the tracks, the full tracks. But you know, like I think a month I hit between probably 50k at worst views and 80k a month on the channel. You imagine what size your band has to be, you know, to get to that level where you are matching that. I mean, I know it's different, and it is different, but that's something that I do keep thinking, you know. Do I want to go out there and play to a possible 10 people when I could just upload a video? I could write a song in one day and upload it, and probably 1,000 of you guys would listen to it, even if you hated it, you know. But yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one for me. My old band as well, it had like I said, a really strong following, 160, 170k followers. And that got deleted, you know, somebody's deleted that Facebook. I'm assuming it's a band member, you know, or an ex-band member, and it's not good. You know, that's bad form. That would have inspired me to get a new singer, you know, or a new drummer, because they're both in different bands. And I would have probably reformed, you know, give it a bit of a facelift. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard to find vocalists, especially. So that's why I'm not in a band. Anyway, on a positive note, please subscribe if you've not already, because there is some new gear coming that I am massively excited about, okay? These are exclusives, you know, it's new gear that's getting released. It's coming out to me to demo for you guys, and it's probably going to be back end of summer before it arrives, but I'm really excited about it. I can't say too much on it, but I'm massively excited about this new gear that is coming out later in the year. Thank you very much for watching. Do not forget to subscribe. I hope this answers some of the questions that you guys have been asking me on Facebook, and I'll see you all very soon.